There are moments when life feels like a storm you cannot escape. Your heart pounds, your mind races, and emotions take the wheel, driving you toward actions you might later regret. Anger bursts out at the wrong person. Fear keeps you from speaking up when it matters most. Sadness drags you into isolation. We all know what it's like to feel ruled by our emotions, as if we are no longer in control of ourselves. But what if I told you that nearly 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor faced the same storms of emotion and left us a map for navigating them? That emperor was Marcus Aurelius. Marcus wasn't just a ruler of an empire. He was a man who spent countless nights writing to himself, wrestling with anger, sorrow, and the crushing weight of responsibility. In his private journal, which we know today as Meditations, he left us timeless advice on how to conquer the very emotions that threaten to control us. He reminds us that emotions are not enemies to be destroyed but signals to be understood, guides that can lead us toward growth if we approach them with wisdom. When Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength," he wasn't offering a poetic line to impress others. He was giving himself a lifeline, a way to survive the turbulence of leading Rome while keeping his soul intact. And that same lifeline is available to you. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to live in that way. To face betrayal and not lash out in anger. To stand in the midst of chaos and remain calm. To lose something you deeply love and still find the strength to move forward. This is not about suppressing emotions or pretending they do not exist. Marcus teaches us a more profound lesson, that true power comes from mastering our responses, from transforming our emotions into fuel for virtue rather than chains that hold us back. Over the next chapters, we will walk step by step through his wisdom. We will see how he reframed anger so it could not destroy him, how he faced fear with reason, and how he learned to keep his mind anchored in peace despite the storms of life. And as we explore his teachings, you may begin to see that conquering your emotions is not about becoming cold or detached. It is about becoming deeply alive, present, and unshakably strong. This journey begins with a simple but radical idea: your emotions do not control you unless you allow them to. And Marcus Aurelius will show us how to take that control back. When Marcus Aurelius spoke about conquering emotions, he did not mean building walls around the heart or pretending to be unaffected by pain. He understood emotions as natural responses to life, but he also saw that they could become destructive when left unchecked. That is why he urged himself to pause, to think, and to seek a higher perspective before reacting. In Meditations, he wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This is where his journey of mastering emotions begins, with the recognition that what hurts us most is not reality itself, but our interpretation of it. Think about how this applies in your own life. A friend makes a sharp comment, and anger immediately flares. A colleague gets the promotion you hoped for, and jealousy creeps in. A stranger criticizes you online, and your mind can't stop replaying their words. In each case, it feels like the world is attacking you. But Marcus would challenge that feeling. He would remind you that between the event and your reaction lies a crucial space, the space where choice lives. You cannot stop someone from being rude or unkind, but you can choose what meaning you attach to it. And in that choice lies freedom. This idea may sound simple, but living it requires practice. Marcus often wrote to himself about expecting difficulties before the day even began. "When you wake up in the morning," he said, "tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." He did not write this to grow bitter or to live with low expectations. He wrote it to prepare his mind so that the emotional blows of the day would not catch him off guard. When you expect imperfection from people and the world, you can meet challenges with calmness instead of shock. Let's bring this to the present. Imagine starting your morning with this kind of reflection, reminding yourself that not everyone you meet will treat you kindly, that life will throw its share of challenges, and that emotions will rise in response. Instead of resisting this truth, you embrace it. Suddenly, when a coworker snaps at you, you are not thrown into rage. You remember, I knew this would happen, and I am prepared. In that moment, you shift from reacting to responding, from being ruled by emotions to ruling them. Marcus understood that preparation was half the battle. By training his mind to expect difficulties, he reduced their emotional power over him. This practice is more than a philosophical exercise. It is a daily discipline, a shield that allows you to walk into the chaos of life without being consumed by it. And this is only the beginning. Conquering emotions requires more than preparation. It demands a deep shift in how we see ourselves and the world. Marcus will take us there, step by step, as we continue this journey into the heart of Stoic wisdom. To truly conquer emotions, Marcus Aurelius knew we must first understand where they come from. Emotions, in their raw form, are not enemies. They are signals. Fear warns us of danger, anger signals a boundary crossed, sadness reflects loss or unmet expectations. But Marcus saw that the problem arises when we let these signals dominate our minds and dictate our actions. He recognized that when we give emotions the power to rule us, they cloud our judgment, making us act against reason and virtue. That is why he constantly reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It is this internal power that transforms emotional storms into manageable waves. Think of a time when anger took over completely. Maybe it was a heated argument with someone close to you. In that moment, reason often vanishes. We say things we regret, slammed doors we wish we had kept open, and wound others and ourselves with our unmeasured reactions. Marcus would say, pause. That pause is where our humanity shines. It is in the pause that you regain control of yourself. Imagine if, instead of instantly shouting back, you took a breath, observed the anger rising within you, and asked yourself, does this serve my values? Does this help me be who I aspire to be? The emotional fire may still burn, but you are no longer its fuel. In his writings, Marcus constantly wrestled with this process. He did not present himself as a flawless philosopher above emotions. He wrote as a man in the arena, battling his own impulses. He admitted frustration, exhaustion, even sorrow, but he always returned to the same truth. Emotional mastery is a choice made every day, often every moment. This humility makes his teachings profoundly relatable. It means that emotional control is not about perfection but about persistence. One of the Stoic practices Marcus embraced was reframing. Instead of labeling events as good or bad, he sought to see them simply as they are. He asked himself, what is in my control? What is not? By stripping events of their emotional labels, he reduced their power over his mind. This is a practice anyone can try. Let's say you lose your job. The immediate flood of fear and anger feels overwhelming. But reframing turns this into an opportunity. This is not a disaster. It is a challenge, a chance to grow, to find a better path, to test my resilience. The event itself has not changed, but the meaning you give it transforms everything. Marcus also encouraged cultivating gratitude, even in the midst of hardship. It might seem strange to speak of gratitude when emotions like grief or rage are running high, but he believed gratitude grounds us. When you actively look for what remains good, supportive friends, health, even the simple fact of being alive, the overwhelming power of negative emotions begins to weaken. This is not forced positivity. It is a deliberate effort to balance your perspective so you are not consumed by darkness. Here's a practical exercise to build this habit. The next time you feel consumed by an intense emotion, write it down in detail. Then ask yourself, what am I grateful for at this very moment? What part of this situation can I control? How can I act in alignment with my values? This simple act of reflection pulls you out of the whirlwind of pure emotion and puts you back in the driver's seat. Marcus lived in a world of constant chaos, wars, political pressure, betrayal, yet he trained himself to stay centered. His life reminds us that mastering emotions does not require escaping difficulty, it requires standing firm in the middle of it. This is the heart of conquering emotions, learning to feel deeply, yet act wisely. If you want to conquer your emotions the way Marcus Aurelius taught, you need to start by observing them as an impartial witness. This may sound simple, but it is one of the most challenging disciplines of the mind. Marcus constantly reminded himself that our first impressions, the rush of anger when insulted, the wave of fear when facing uncertainty, the pang of sorrow when suffering loss, are just that, impressions. They are not the full reality. He wrote, "Remove the judgment, and the hurt itself disappears." What did he mean by this? He meant that emotions are often reactions not to events themselves, but to the stories we tell ourselves about those events. When someone criticizes you, it is not the words that wound you but the meaning you attach to them, perhaps that you are unworthy, unappreciated, or unloved. If you can step back and strip away the judgment, the sting begins to fade. This approach is powerful in modern life. Consider how often we are triggered by social media, workplace dynamics, or family tensions. A rude comment online can ruin someone's entire day. But does it have to? Marcus would advise you to pause and say, "This is only an opinion, not a fact. It does not define me." In that pause lies freedom. By observing emotions instead of being swept away by them, you reclaim control. This is what modern psychology now calls cognitive distancing, an ancient practice that Marcus mastered centuries ago. Another key practice Marcus advocated was living in alignment with nature, which to the Stoics meant living according to reason, virtue, and the natural order of life. When you live in harmony with these principles, emotions lose their power to destabilize you. Ask yourself, is my reaction serving the greater good? Is it aligned with who I want to be? When you answer truthfully, you often realize that lashing out in anger or collapsing in despair does nothing to improve your situation. Instead, you begin to act with measured purpose. Take a modern scenario. You are passed over for a promotion at work despite your hard efforts. The initial flood of disappointment and anger may feel unbearable. But Marcus would tell you, do not rail against what is beyond your control. Instead, look to what is within your power, your response, your future actions, your growth. This shift in perspective allows you to transform what feels like a defeat into an opportunity to learn and improve. Marcus also leaned heavily on the practice of premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils. He prepared his mind each morning by reflecting on what could go wrong. He famously wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." Why did he do this? Not to become cynical, but to strengthen his emotional resilience. By expecting challenges, he robbed them of their power to shock or overwhelm him. You can try this yourself. Before starting your day, take 5 minutes to reflect. What difficulties might I face today? How will I handle them with calm and virtue? You will notice that when challenges arise, you meet them with greater composure because you have already rehearsed them in your mind. Marcus also believed in the healing power of perspective. He often reminded himself of his place in the vastness of the universe. He wrote about how small our troubles seem when viewed against the backdrop of time and the cosmos. This practice can be transformative. When your emotions feel unbearable, remind yourself, in the grand arc of history, will this matter? In a year? In 5 years? Often, the answer shrinks the problem to its true size, making it easier to bear. And here lies a profound Stoic truth: conquering emotions does not mean suppressing them. It means acknowledging them fully but refusing to be ruled by them. You feel the anger but choose not to act in malice. You feel the fear but move forward anyway. You feel the sorrow but do not let it consume your life. This is what Marcus practiced every day, not emotional numbness, but emotional mastery. Finally, Marcus Aurelius reminds us that this is a journey, not a destination. He never claimed to have perfected his control over emotions, and neither should we. But every time we pause before reacting, every time we choose reason over impulse, we take one more step toward true freedom. This is the lifelong work of conquering emotions, and the reward is an unshakable mind at peace with itself. If the fourth part helped us see emotions as fleeting impressions, this part is about building daily practices to transform those insights into lasting habits. Marcus Aurelius was not merely a philosopher who wrote in silence. He was an emperor surrounded by constant chaos, conflict, and responsibility. His life teaches us that controlling emotions is not an abstract concept but a discipline to be lived out every single day. He understood that emotions can overwhelm us only when we allow them to take root unchecked. The antidote: rituals of reflection, deliberate exercises for emotional mastery, and a steady commitment to the values that anchor us. Marcus often began his mornings with journaling, writing down his thoughts and preparing himself for the day ahead. This was more than just putting words on paper. It was his way of clearing his mental space, organizing his priorities, and bracing himself for the trials to come. He wrote things like, "You will meet people today who are arrogant, ungrateful, deceitful." By confronting these possibilities in advance, he stripped them of their power to catch him off guard. Imagine applying this today. Before leaving for work, you tell yourself, "I may face rude clients, impatient coworkers, or traffic delays, but none of this has to control my mood." Suddenly, you've shifted from reacting to anticipating, which gives you a sense of control. The Stoics also practiced a form of cognitive rehearsal, vividly imagining difficult situations before they happened. This exercise, called premeditatio malorum, was Marcus's shield against emotional upheaval. He visualized challenges not to dwell on negativity but to prepare his mind for composure. You can do this too. For instance, if you know you have a tough meeting coming up, pause and picture how it might unfold. Visualize the worst-case scenario and rehearse how you would respond with calmness and reason. This simple mental training equips you to face real situations with confidence, turning fear into familiarity. Another cornerstone of Marcus's emotional mastery was reframing. He constantly reminded himself that events are neutral until we give them meaning. This is crucial. We often label things as good or bad based on our immediate feelings, but these judgments are rarely accurate. Marcus challenged himself to see beyond the first impression. Was an insult truly a personal attack, or simply a reflection of someone else's struggles? Was a setback really a failure, or an opportunity to practice resilience? Reframing situations in this way dissolves the emotional sting and gives you back your power. Modern neuroscience supports this ancient wisdom. Studies show that when we reinterpret events, seeing them as challenges rather than threats, our emotional responses become less intense, and our brains function with greater clarity. Marcus may not have had brain scans to confirm this, but he intuitively knew that perception is everything. His words remind us, if you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. In addition to reframing, Marcus cultivated gratitude, even in the midst of hardship. This may sound surprising. How could an emperor burdened with endless duties and betrayals find gratitude? Yet he often wrote about being thankful for the people who inspired him, for the chance to live in alignment with virtue, and for the lessons taught by adversity. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, from resentment to appreciation. Even today, this practice is transformative. Start by listing 3 things each day you're grateful for, no matter how small. Over time, this simple habit reshapes your emotional landscape. Marcus also understood the value of physical practices in managing emotions. He didn't separate the mind from the body. Whether through disciplined routines, enduring discomfort, or staying physically active, he saw the body as an ally in strengthening the soul. When you engage in regular exercise or embrace voluntary discomfort, like fasting or taking a cold shower, you train yourself to tolerate discomfort with grace. You prove to yourself that you can endure more than you think, which directly translates into emotional resilience. Above all, Marcus's writings reveal his unshakable commitment to virtue. To him, emotions were not enemies to destroy but signals guiding him toward growth. Anger reminded him to practice patience, fear reminded him to exercise courage, sorrow pushed him to deepen his compassion. He didn't run from emotions, he faced them, learned from them, and transformed them into fuel for becoming better. You can do the same. Each time you feel overwhelmed, pause and ask, what is this emotion trying to teach me? How can I act with wisdom here? By turning emotions into opportunities for growth, you move from being a prisoner of your feelings to their master. And in that mastery lies the freedom Marcus Aurelius cherished, a freedom that no external force can take away. To truly conquer your emotions, Marcus Aurelius believed you must go beyond reacting to individual situations and instead create a consistent way of living, a philosophy embodied in your daily actions. Emotional mastery is not achieved in a single breakthrough moment. It's forged over time, like steel, through countless small, deliberate choices. Marcus understood that our emotions are shaped by our habits. If we cultivate poor habits of thought, dwelling on slights, craving approval, catastrophizing small issues, we guarantee emotional turmoil. But if we intentionally practice Stoic habits, we create an inner fortress, one that even the fiercest storms cannot penetrate. One of Marcus's most profound practices was what we might call the evening audit. After a day of ruling an empire, he reflected on his actions, examining where he had lived up to his ideals and where he had fallen short. He didn't do this to shame himself but to grow. This habit can work wonders today. At the end of your day, ask yourself, where did I lose my temper? Where did I let fear or frustration take control? More importantly, how could I respond differently next time? This transforms emotional struggles into lessons, making you an active participant in your own growth. Marcus's approach also involved redefining success. Most people measure success by external factors, wealth, recognition, or praise. But Marcus taught that real success is measured by the state of your soul. Did you live with virtue today? Did you maintain your integrity even when provoked? Did you choose patience instead of anger, courage instead of fear? This shift liberates you from the roller coaster of external validation. When your emotional well-being is tied to things you can't control, you'll always be at the mercy of others. But when your sense of worth comes from living according to your principles, you become unshakable. Let's put this into practice with an exercise inspired by Marcus. Create your virtue compass. Write down 3 values you want to embody, perhaps patience, courage, and wisdom. Then, each morning, review them and set an intention. Today, I will be patient in my interactions, courageous in my decisions, and wise in my judgments. At night, reflect on how well you upheld these values. Over time, this practice rewires your emotional responses, because you're no longer driven by impulse but by deliberate alignment with your chosen virtues. Marcus also teaches us that perspective is everything. Often, emotions feel overwhelming because we view problems as monumental. But Marcus frequently reminded himself of the vastness of time and the fleeting nature of our troubles. He wrote, "All things fade into the storied past." Consider how this perspective shrinks your current worries. The rude comment from a coworker, the missed opportunity, the inconvenience of a delay, in the grand scope of life, are they worth your peace? The answer, Marcus would argue, is no. This exercise of zooming out is especially powerful in emotionally charged situations. When something upsets you, imagine looking at it from 1,000 miles above. Or, as Marcus did, picture it against the backdrop of eternity. Ask yourself, will this matter a year from now? 5 years from now? Often, the intensity of the emotion dissipates when you see it for what it really is, temporary and insignificant in the grand scheme. Marcus also encouraged detachment from labels. He cautioned against calling things terrible, tragic, or unbearable. He knew that our language shapes our experience. If you constantly label setbacks as disasters, you amplify their emotional impact. Instead, describe them neutrally: this is challenging, or this is an obstacle. This subtle shift disarms your emotions and helps you approach problems rationally. Yet Marcus did not advocate for suppressing emotions. This is critical to understand. Emotional mastery is not emotional numbness. It's not about pretending you don't feel anger, sadness, or fear. Instead, it's about feeling these emotions without being ruled by them. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. You acknowledge the wind, the rain, the chaos, but you remain anchored, knowing it will pass. This is the Stoic way. Emotions are visitors, not permanent residents. Finally, Marcus's emotional discipline was fueled by his devotion to a higher purpose. He constantly reminded himself that his life was part of a larger whole. He served not just as an emperor but as a human being contributing to the greater good of the universe. When you tie your actions to a purpose greater than yourself, whether it's family, community, or personal growth, your emotional challenges lose some of their sting. You endure not because you enjoy the struggle but because you understand its meaning. Emotional mastery, as Marcus Aurelius shows us, isn't about achieving an emotionless state. It's about aligning your thoughts, actions, and responses with your deepest values so that no matter what life throws your way, you remain steady. Every insult, every setback, every fear becomes an opportunity to practice virtue and strengthen your character. And with each day of practice, your emotions stop controlling you and start serving you. When Marcus Aurelius spoke about conquering emotions, he wasn't telling us to shut them down or deny their existence. Instead, he offered a method to engage with them so deeply and rationally that they lose their power to control us. In his meditations, he often reminded himself that it is not events that disturb us but our opinions about them. This is one of the most transformative ideas in Stoic philosophy. Between an event and your emotional reaction lies a space, and within that space exists your freedom. That space is where you choose whether to be calm or to lose control, to rise above or to sink into chaos. Imagine someone insults you at work. The usual reaction might be anger, defensiveness, or resentment. But Marcus would advise a different approach. First, pause. Recognize that the words themselves are just sounds, vibrations in the air, and that their power over you comes only from the meaning you assign to them. Then, remind yourself of his words. If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. When you stop and observe your thoughts in this way, you weaken the emotion's grip on you. This isn't about being passive, it's about reclaiming control over your mind before reacting. Marcus also developed mental exercises to preempt emotional turmoil. One of his favorite practices was what we now call premeditation of adversity. Before beginning his day, he would prepare himself mentally by imagining the challenges ahead. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, 'Today I shall meet with meddling, ingratitude, arrogance, dishonesty, jealousy, and surliness.'" This wasn't pessimism. It was armor. By expecting human flaws, he neutralized the shock and disappointment when they appeared. You can practice this today. Before a big meeting or family gathering, remind yourself that you may encounter frustration, disrespect, or misunderstanding, and resolve in advance to meet it with calm and dignity. In addition to anticipating challenges, Marcus believed in reframing them. For the Stoics, every difficulty was an opportunity to practice virtue. Someone provokes you. Practice patience. A colleague takes credit for your work. Practice humility and perseverance. Life throws you into chaos. Practice courage and composure. This shift is profound. Suddenly, problems aren't attacks, they're invitations to grow stronger. This mindset transforms your emotional landscape because you stop seeing challenges as purely negative and start viewing them as exercises in character. Another essential lesson from Marcus is learning to zoom out from the immediate emotional intensity of a moment. When consumed by anger or fear, he would remind himself of the vastness of the universe and the fleeting nature of human life. "Consider how ephemeral and mean all mortal things are," he wrote. This isn't to make you feel small in a hopeless way. It's to give you perspective. The hurtful comment, the failed project, the disappointment you feel, will it matter a year from now? 5 years from now? Probably not. By zooming out, you put emotional pain in its proper place. Let's make this practical with a journaling exercise. Tonight, write about one event that upset you recently. Then ask yourself, will this matter a month from now? A year from now? What lesson can I extract from it? How can I respond in a way that aligns with my values? This exercise turns emotional reactions into deliberate reflections, reducing their intensity over time. Marcus also encouraged compassion toward others as a tool for emotional mastery. He often reminded himself that those who wrong us act out of ignorance, pain, or their own struggles. Whenever you are offended at someone's fault, turn to yourself and consider your own failings, he wrote. This isn't about excusing bad behavior. It's about refusing to fuel your anger with self-righteousness. When you recognize that others are imperfect, just like you replace bitterness with understanding, which is far more powerful for maintaining emotional balance. In modern life, this practice can be transformative. Think of social media, where people are quick to judge and attack. Instead of reacting emotionally to criticism, practice what Marcus did. See the other person as a fellow human being, flawed and struggling, perhaps lashing out from their own pain. This doesn't mean you accept abuse, but it helps you protect your peace by not taking their words as personal verdicts on your worth. Above all, Marcus teaches us that conquering emotions isn't about living without them, it's about living above them. You will still feel anger, sadness, fear, and disappointment. But these emotions no longer dictate your actions. You observe them, learn from them, and use them as tools to become wiser and stronger. When you practice these Stoic exercises daily, premeditation of adversity, reframing challenges as opportunities, zooming out for perspective, and showing compassion for others, you gradually build an emotional fortress. You don't become numb, you become unbreakable. And that's what Marcus wanted for himself and for anyone willing to walk the Stoic path, to live as a calm, steady force in a chaotic world, driven not by fleeting emotions but by unshakable principles. One of the most empowering lessons Marcus Aurelius left for us is that emotions are teachers, not tyrants. Anger, fear, sadness, jealousy, these emotions are natural, but they don't have to control us. Instead, they can point us toward areas of growth. Marcus never wrote that we should be emotionless. Rather, he emphasized that wisdom comes from understanding and mastering emotions, not suppressing them. He believed that by observing and questioning our emotional responses, we turn them from destructive forces into opportunities for self-improvement. Consider this: you're in traffic, running late for an important meeting, and someone cuts you off. Your heart races, your fists clench, and anger floods your body. In that moment, you have two paths. One is the familiar one, reacting blindly, perhaps yelling or staying angry all day. The other is the Stoic path, pausing, breathing, and asking yourself what's really happening. Marcus would remind himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It's not the other driver's behavior that ruins your day. It's your reaction to it. This is emotional mastery in action, reclaiming the power to decide how much space that moment takes in your life. To build this habit, Marcus used deliberate reflection. At the end of his day, he would review his actions, words, and feelings, journaling about what triggered him and how he responded. He treated each emotional misstep not as failure but as feedback. This nightly practice can be transformative for us, too. If something deeply upset you today, maybe criticism at work or a conflict with a loved one, write it down. What story did you tell yourself about that event? Was it accurate, or did your emotions distort the truth? Over time, this reflection helps you untangle raw feelings from reality. Another crucial insight from Marcus is the concept of emotional distancing. He often reminded himself that events are neutral until we assign them meaning. If someone insults you, those words are just sounds. The insult only exists because you perceive it as one. Imagine hearing the same insult in a language you don't understand. Would it hurt? Probably not. This shows us that the pain doesn't come from the words themselves but from our interpretation. By practicing this distancing, you begin to reclaim control over your inner state. Marcus also emphasized preparing for emotional challenges before they happen. He would start his mornings with the premeditation of adversity, telling himself to expect rudeness, ingratitude, or even betrayal. This isn't pessimism, it's emotional armor. When you anticipate difficulties, they don't shock you. Instead, you meet them with calm acceptance. Try this tomorrow morning. Before stepping out of bed, remind yourself that you might face stress, judgment, or rejection, and then commit to staying composed. This single exercise can dramatically reduce emotional volatility. Modern life offers countless opportunities to apply this wisdom. Social media, for instance, is a breeding ground for emotional reactions. A single negative comment can ruin someone's day. But Marcus would advise, detach from the noise. Ask yourself, does this comment truly affect who I am, or is it just another opinion from someone I don't know? By refusing to give others the power to define your worth, you protect your peace. Compassion also plays a vital role in conquering emotions. Marcus often reminded himself that those who wrong us act out of ignorance for inner struggle. When someone lashes out, he saw it not as an attack but as evidence of their pain. This mindset helps you respond with patience instead of retaliation. Next time someone offends you, pause and silently think, they are fighting their own battles. I will not let their storm enter my calm. This isn't weakness, it's emotional strength at its peak. To make this practical, here's an exercise. When an emotion overwhelms you, name it. Say to yourself, I am feeling anger, or I am feeling fear. Then, ask, why? What belief or expectation is feeding this emotion? By naming and questioning your feelings, you create space between you and them. They no longer define you, they become information you can work with. Over time, these practices build resilience. You begin to notice your triggers before they take over. You start reframing difficulties as opportunities to grow in patience, courage, and understanding. You develop what Marcus called an inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that cannot be breached by the chaos of the outside world. Imagine living like this, centered, calm, and unshakable no matter what life throws at you. This is what conquering your emotions truly means. You don't stop feeling, you start mastering those feelings so they serve your higher purpose instead of controlling you. This is the gift Marcus Aurelius left us, and it's available to anyone willing to practice. Emotions are not enemies. They are signals, messengers carrying information about what we value, fear, or desire. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He didn't see emotions as something to suppress or ignore. Instead, he saw them as forces to understand and master. To conquer emotions, you don't destroy them. You learn to guide them, to shape them so they serve your higher purpose rather than enslave you. Marcus often wrote about the gap between stimulus and response, the space where choice resides. Imagine a coworker criticizes you in a meeting. Instantly, you feel anger rising. Your heart beats faster, your face warms. In that small space between their words and your reaction lies your power. The untrained mind reacts without thinking, lashing out or retreating in hurt. The Stoic mind pauses, evaluates, and chooses a response aligned with reason and virtue. This pause, this act of deliberate choice, is where mastery begins. Marcus taught himself to anticipate emotional challenges. He would start his mornings with an honest acknowledgement of what awaited him. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. This wasn't pessimism. It was preparation. By expecting difficulties, he disarmed them before they arrived. When that difficult person appeared, he didn't think, why is this happening to me? He thought, here is what I prepared for. This simple shift transforms emotional chaos into emotional resilience. We can practice this too. Each morning, before stepping into the world, take a moment to forecast challenges. Maybe someone will cut you off in traffic. Perhaps a client will cancel an important meeting. Maybe your child will throw a tantrum or your boss will speak unfairly. If you expect these things, you won't be shaken when they arrive. Instead, you'll meet them with steady composure, ready to choose your response rather than be ruled by raw emotion. One of Marcus's most profound insights was separating what is within our control from what is not. If a friend betrays you, you can't undo their choice. But you can choose how to interpret it and how to act next. Painful. Absolutely. But life's sting comes not only from events themselves, but from our resistance to them. If you decide that betrayal means the end of your peace, it will be. If you decide it means a chance to strengthen your boundaries and clarify your values, it becomes a teacher. Here's a modern example: social media. Someone posts a hurtful comment about you. Instantly, you want to respond, to defend yourself. But pause. What is in your control? Their opinion? No. Their words? No. Your response? Absolutely. You can choose to engage with calm, to ignore it, or to use it as an opportunity to reflect on whether their words carry truth. That moment of pause, of reframing, is what separates the emotionally unbreakable from the easily shaken. Another vital practice Marcus used was journaling. He wrote to himself, not to the public, as a way of taming his inner storms. When something upset him, he poured it onto paper, dissecting it. You can do the same. The next time you feel overwhelmed, open a notebook and ask, why am I feeling this way? What am I afraid of losing? What story am I telling myself about this event? Often, you'll see that your emotional reaction is tied to assumptions or fears that are not grounded in reality. Emotions also become easier to manage when we practice empathy. Marcus regularly reminded himself that those who hurt him did so out of ignorance or inner turmoil. When someone lashes out at you, remember, their reaction says more about them than about you. Imagine how different your emotional life would be if, instead of taking every insult personally, you saw it as a window into someone else's pain. This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it frees you from being enslaved by it. Finally, remember that emotional mastery doesn't mean emotional numbness. It's not about silencing joy or burying grief. It's about creating an inner balance where emotions serve you instead of ruling you. Marcus's goal wasn't to stop feeling, it was to stop being consumed by feelings. Picture yourself living this way: when insulted, you don't crumble. When plans fail, you don't collapse. When praised, you don't lose yourself in ego. You remain steady, grounded, unshakable. This is what conquering your emotions looks like, not the absence of storms, but learning to sail through them with unbreakable calm. As we bring this journey to a close, it's time to reflect on everything we've uncovered about mastering our emotions the way Marcus Aurelius did. Emotional mastery is not a mystical gift reserved for philosophers or sages. It's a skill, a discipline, built day by day through practice, self-reflection, and a deep commitment to living in harmony with reason and virtue. Think about what we've explored together. First, we learned to create space between what happens to us and how we respond. This space is our power. In that moment of pause, we choose not to be dragged by our emotions but to stand firm and act deliberately. This single practice, if embraced daily, can change the way you experience life. Next, we discuss preparation, Marcus's habit of starting each day by anticipating challenges. When you expect difficulties, they no longer catch you off guard. They become familiar tests, opportunities to practice composure and wisdom. Imagine waking up tomorrow and telling yourself, I will meet rudeness, disappointment, and unfairness today, and I will not let any of it destroy my peace. That simple affirmation can transform your emotional world. We also explored the crucial Stoic idea of separating what is within your control from what is not. Your emotions often spiral when you try to control the uncontrollable, other people's opinions, the twists of fate, the randomness of life. But when you redirect your energy toward what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your values, you discover a freedom that no insult, no loss, no betrayal can take away from you. Journaling became another key practice. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself each night, untangling his emotions, identifying his fears, and reminding himself of what truly mattered. You can do the same. A notebook becomes a mirror for your soul, a safe place to wrestle with the chaos inside until clarity emerges. We talked about reframing pain, seeing insults as reflections of another person's suffering, seeing setbacks as opportunities for growth, and understanding that emotions are teachers, not enemies. When you view the world through this lens, you no longer stumble in the dark. You walk with purpose, knowing that even the hardest moments can sharpen your character and deepen your wisdom. And most importantly, we reminded ourselves that conquering emotions doesn't mean silencing them. It means transforming them. Your anger becomes assertive action. Your fear becomes careful preparation. Your sadness becomes compassion. In this way, every emotion serves your higher purpose instead of consuming you. Imagine the life that awaits you if you practice these lessons, a life where insults no longer break you, where failures don't paralyze you, and where praise doesn't inflate your ego. You become steady, grounded, and untouchable, not because life stops being hard, but because you stop being controlled by what you feel. Marcus Aurelius showed us that emotional mastery is a lifelong journey. It's not about perfection. It's about progress, about becoming a little stronger, a little calmer, a little wiser every day. And that journey starts now. So, I leave you with this. Begin today. Write down your thoughts tonight. Anticipate tomorrow's challenges. Pause before reacting. Choose understanding over judgment. And most of all, commit to becoming the master of your inner world, no matter what storms rage around you. If this message resonates with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Your reflections might inspire someone else on their path. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next step in this journey of ancient wisdom. Together, we can build lives rooted in resilience, clarity, and unshakable peace.